Hey, what's up? This is Adam Smith from the Commander Smiths, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can change your land into a nice looking proxy like one of these here, start to finish. So design everything, how to go from this to this. Once again, I'm going to show you how to change your basic land into some nice full looking art like I have here. It'll be from start to finish, and I'll show you some different examples of how I do my proxies. Typically, I try to use the original art like I have here for Time Warp, just so that when I play the card that my opponents know what cards I'm actually playing and don't have to keep looking at it. And I will also show you how to do this overlaying thing, some basic stuff, some tools that you can use, especially when you're using Photoshop. That's mainly what I am using in this program to design some of these. And then you can do some kind of nice things where if you use like my Yoda art, which is for all my tutors have Yoda art, and I kind of did different things there. Or when you run into trouble and you can't find actually any good full art that'll look good, then you go with something like Mirage Mirror here, where I had to find a completely different art on that. Now I do want to start by saying that none of these are for sale, and I haven't sold any of these cards. They're not meant to be for sale. They're mainly there to take the place of my card that I do own of this. So all of these I do own. You can kind of check out our podcast at MTG Commander Smiths, where we discuss this, or we have an episode on about our proxies and everything and how we do our play group with it. But as you can see, looking at the corner of Time Warp here, you can actually see there's a little piece of paper that is actually overlaid on the top of this. So this is an actual Magic card, but I do have a piece of paper on that. So it's not meant to be tricking anybody that it's a real card. So that's the point of this, because as you can tell, I do own a copy of every single one of these cards. So we only make the proxies so that we don't have to keep taking cards out from each deck when we want to play a different deck. That just saves time. And also, when you get the really expensive cards like your dual lands and stuff, you don't always want to be carrying those around with you, and if they're in your car or something and they get stolen, it's nice to just have proxies that are kind of taking its place. So once again, start to finish, to show you how we can change your basic lands into a nice full art proxy like one of these. All right, right here I'm going to show you how to actually do two different ways of making your full art proxies. The first way is going to be actually using Adobe Photoshop. You don't have to have the newest Adobe Photoshop. I do have that here, but I was using an old Photoshop, so you'll actually be able to use the same tools from the old Photoshop with the new Photoshop. All the same tools are in those. But if you don't have Photoshop, I will show you another way, and actually it's quick and easy way to do your full art proxies or your proxies in general. I'll do that next. But first, what I like to do is I pull up Google and I will search for the image. Typically I put the name of it, MTG full art, sometimes just art, just to find your art here. So this was the best image that I came up with, and what you're going to do is you're going to actually copy, save the image actually to a folder. I've already done that. And then what you want to do is go to like Scryfall is a good site to use. You want to get a good quality image of a card like this one here, and you'll copy, do the same thing, save the image, not copy, save the image into a folder. Once you've done that, you'll pull up your Photoshop, you'll open that up. Now you'll open both images, so there's the art right there. We'll pull that up, and then you also want to pull up the card itself. So after that, we do this magic wand tool, and we want to start highlighting stuff. Now you press Control plus, and that's how you actually zoom in, and then you can start highlighting. You just want to do the text box stuff. So you're getting all this stuff. You don't want anything like, see right here, oh, there's some showing through. What if you don't get all of that, the background is going to show through in those, and it's going to look really weird in those spots. So you just want to make sure you get everything, even the smallest thing right there will just look weird if you don't get it all. So there's some stuff there. All right, then we go up to this, and if you mess up, like see how I got a little bit there, you just Control Z. I know a lot of you are probably just like, I know how to do all this stuff, but I just kind of want to show everybody how to do it start to finish if you're not familiar with Photoshop, because I had to actually teach myself all this stuff, so I wasn't I wasn't able to watch a video on how to do that. So you also want to get this top part. Now what I used to do was separate these images. I did the top and the bottom differently, and that actually made it very difficult. You wouldn't get the card coming out correctly. Sometimes it'd be bigger, you know, the title of what the card is and what the card does was sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. So you want to make sure you highlight this all. Then we press Control C and we go back to our image and Control V. And then we change our tool over so we can shrink this bad boy down. And what you want to do is just kind of get it so that it fits on here, not perfectly, but you're not going to do much adjusting to your top and bottom. It's your sides that are really going to get adjusting. So we're going to get this in the right spot. I think that looks good, top and bottom. Click OK. The next thing we're going to want to do is crop this bad boy. So we'll pull this, wait till the crop pulls up here, and we'll pull these images in. Now I like to leave a little gap here because in the end, when we're actually putting this on Word and when we're getting ready to print it off, you need it a little wider so you can make adjustments, because actually what's going to happen on Word is I'm going to cut this down quite a bit to make it fit so it actually fits an actual Magic card. So we press OK there. Then what we're going to do once this is all done there is we want to make it so we can actually see through. So we're going to hit this right here, opacity there, go down to like 40 so you can actually see the image underneath. All right, come on. Why are you not where? Oh, there we go. So you change this so you can actually see your image through. That's just being goofy. So now we get into here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our stamp tool here, and you want to go back to the background, and you're going to hit Alt. See how it changes that, and you click, and then you let go and click again. You make sure that you don't move. And what that does is we're actually, and that's that Control Plus again that I was doing there so we could zoom in. So now when we go to our layer here and you make sure that this is at 100%, you go in and you just start clicking away. You just hold down the mouse, not clicking. You want to hold down the mouse so it's like a paintbrush. So you're pulling that image from behind out to the foreground basically. It's just erasing the text box. Now, I typically like to use a little, like, so you can actually see the card underneath the text if there's text that people need to read, because I don't want people to go back and have to look at their phones or look at the computer to see exactly what cards do. So lately I've been doing that with all my cards, but early on, this is how I was doing. I was covering this. But if it's a card that people know what it does, like Time Warp, you can sometimes get away with covering the whole box. It's just out of courtesy to your fellow players. Then what you're going to want to do is go up to this image up here. We're going to make the wave come out front so it actually makes it look a little 3D-esque. And you don't want to get rid of your casting cost, because then that really just screws things over. You don't want to have to keep looking at that. So now we zoom out, and there's your image. Now I like to pull this up to like 40, 50, 60 so that people can actually see the text underneath. But actually pulling this up makes this really pop out. Now there's some other tools that you can use as well to brighten up colors or bring other colors out. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Photoshop, but just in general, this is what I like to do, is just to make things pop out in front, make it look a little more 3D like I did here and there. All right, so the next spot is, oh, well actually you're gonna wanna go to save this. So we go to save as, and we will just throw that right there. You'll also, that's just so if you ever want to make some changes to your art later, you just save it so it's in the Photoshop. But you're also going to want to change it to a JPEG, because that's the way that you're going to actually put it into Word and be able to print it off. So we print that, or we save that. And so now we move into, if you don't have Photoshop, how to do this. Luckily, in this case, there is an image here that is already there, a full art that we can use. If you don't have that, sometimes you just have to use a black border, or a lot of times if you don't have that, you go to Scryfall and you can get a good quality image there, save that, and then you can actually crop that. So then what we do is we go into actually printing these cards off. So what we want to do is we pull up Word. Let's get that running. And we're going to change the page layout. We want to change it to a landscape. And we want to change our margins to 0.1. And that'll get it so that we can have our card as close to the edge as possible, so you can fit as many cards as possible on there. So we take this image and we copy that, put it over here, paste. All right, obviously too big. What numbers we want to get here is around 2.55 for your width and 3.55 for your height. It doesn't have to be perfect, but typically if it's at those numbers, we're doing really good. Because if you're at 2.6 or 3.6, that's fine. You don't want to get too much wider than that because then you're actually cutting more of the card off. So right now our height is a little bit off. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim this down like I said we were going to do before. All right, so now let's see where we're at. We're at 2.55, 3.35, so we want to trim just a little bit more. Let's pull this side in and this side in just a hair, and that should be good. Every time I'm hitting enter, it just keeps going back. Let's get this up a little bit. All right, so now let's see where we're at with our image. We got a 2.55, and that's pretty dang good right there. So we're a little bit high on that. So what you can do is just shrink it at that point. We can either bring it down like that, or we can just crop the top and bring that down just a little bit. Let's just do that instead, so it doesn't change our image much. You know what? The 2.58 isn't terrible right now. This is just for an example. But you can fart around with it a little bit more later and get those numbers a little closer. But like I said, if you're at 2.55 to 2.57 and 3.57, those are good ranges. If you get into 2.58 right here, 2.59 might be a little big. If I had a little more time, I would actually trim that a little bit more. But I just kind of want to get you the gist of how to do this. Same thing goes for if you don't have Photoshop and you're just pulling an image off of Google, we're going to paste that on here. Obviously too big. Do the same thing here, 2.55. Bring it down. Now, as you notice here, we do have white borders. So we're going to bring this in a little bit. Let's bring it there because that is a little wide on the bottom. Bring it all the way there. Bring it here. And there, and that should do it. Let's see what we're at. 2.55, magic number, that 0.55. All right, so we're just a little off. So what you can do, easy, just stretch it up to there, stretch it to the card. Typically what it will do is once you get a couple of these saved, it'll match the card there. So as you can see, this is a 3.59. So once you get this down to 3.55, this stretching should match that. It'll typically try to go to that spot as it's one of its destinations. So once you get that number right, then you're golden. But as you can see there, we got it pretty close. So we'll just keep it at, let's just get it to the same height as that one. And at that point, what you can do is, well, I want to show you that you can fit 4 cards on here, 8 cards actually. And I do like to give a space between because then you can cut it a little bit easier. If you have them right on top of each other, they're going to be very difficult to actually cut these. And so I might actually do 2 spaces in between these there. And then if you move down one, boom, boom, let's give 2 spaces, 2 spaces. So then those are a little bit easier to cut out. So that's the process of actually the design process of if you have Photoshop or if you don't have Photoshop. Now I'm going to show you how you can actually take these images and put it on an actual magic card and make it look like a pretty dang sweet full art proxy. So that's the next spot. All right, now that we have our card printed off and scaled and printed off to fit the page, typically I actually can fit about 8 of these across, or 8 of these on a sheet. So 4 across here and 4 across there. But just for this example, I'm just showing the one. Then we can actually take our card. And what I actually use to get the paper once it's all cut and everything is this. You can get it from Walmart. I did try some other things. There's some nicer ones like from Target that are much more expensive than this. This is actually pretty good for how much it costs. So I actually like using this. And what you do is kind of think of whiteout where you go like that all the way around the card. And actually I like to do one down the center. So, but first things first is I actually take the card and we put the glue on this first. And then what you do is you'll take the piece of paper, which I'll do that off camera, but you put it on a window so you can actually see through. If you take this right now, so you can kind of see it through there. When it's on a window, even at nighttime, you can actually see through with it taped there, and then you can line up your card to fit perfectly on there. And then once all the cards are on the back of there, you cut each card out. So step one is getting this card glued, and I'll just kind of go through that quick with that right there. And what we do is go that, turn. I try to get it as much as I can onto the corners so you don't get much peeling. So if you don't get all the way there, try to get a little extra there. And like so. And sometimes this, when you get towards the end of the sticks, that's why this is good in the beginning, but when you get to the end of these glue rollers, they get a little more tricky. You have to put a lot more pressure on them. And then you just do one little thing like that. All right, and then what I will do is go cut that, or actually I will go paste that card onto here really quick, and then we will go from there. All right, so now we have our card glued onto the actual image there. So now the next step is, normally there's 8 of them, so normally what I would do is cut each card out individually just to make it easier to handle. What I will do in this case is just cut this card out to show you kind of how I go through each card after they're all cut out. All right, so you take, I normally start with an angle cut. It doesn't matter if you get the card, but just a little nick on the corner there. But then what I do is I just follow the line. It's kind of nice because you can just get right along the edge of the card there. It's kind of just a guide to show you where to go. And it doesn't matter if you have like a little white sticking up, because most of your cards when you're playing proxies, at least when we play with all our cards, we typically have them in, we call them card condoms, card sleeves, so that your cards are protected. You never play without card sleeves, and that's just kind of a rule of thumb with stuff. It only, you know, wasn't only when I was a kid when I didn't play with card sleeves, but even then we put those in sleeves as much as possible. So you get it all trimmed up looking nice, and then you have a nice looking proxy right there. So as you can see, boom. That's what it looks like when it's all nice on there. And you can see there is a piece of paper there. If you really look close, you can peel that up. But if you get that glue nice and tight, then you really don't notice it that much. And it's pretty close on the other side of the card as well. So good looking proxy. So that'll do it, where I showed you how to change your basic land into a nice full art proxy. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find our podcast where I'm joined by my cousin Lowry Smith, where we have a weekly podcast at MTG Commander Smiths. We also post that here on YouTube as well. If you have any questions or comments, please leave that below. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email if you want to ask me something directly. And that'll do it. This is Adam Smith from the Commander Smiths. See ya.